I think he's back.
I'm back. Sorry about that. I had network issues. I had to change network provider. I'm sorry about that. All right, let's continue, please. Sorry about that. So I was trying to explain that if we have a good grasp of the definition of what consulting is, we will begin to see the magnitude of the opportunities that is before us as a consultant. So it's critical that we have a good grasp and understanding of what consultants or consulting is, and then we begin to see the massive opportunity. And that stems from the definition. So the definition, a generic definition of consulting is that it is the practice of helping organizations. So consulting is practical, and it's practical in the sense of helping organizations, or if you like, clients, helping them to do what? Helping them to improve performances, helping them to solve problems, helping clients to achieve particular goals. So consulting in the first place is a practice, it's practical, it's a practice of helping. And at this point, I say this, if the worst thing you can commit as a consultant is to leave a client worse off. I repeat, the worst sin you can commit as a consultant is when you are finished with the client is in a worse state. They are not any better from when they engaged you. So this is very critical, that we must help the clients. The reason why clients engage us is to move us from one point to another. Typically 3 things. They want to solve a problem, they want to improve performances, or they want to achieve a goal. It's either one of those 3, majorly. That's why we are employed as consultants, to solve a problem, to achieve a goal, or to improve a performance. They want to move from where they are to where they want to be, or where they ought to be. And that's the reason why they call a consultant. So if at the end of your engagement, you are not helping the client, is the worst sin you can commit. If there's any such thing as a sin a consultant can do, is the worst sacrilege that you can commit. If there's any such thing pertaining to consulting, if the client is worse off than when they engaged you. So the first thing is we're there to help. So that's the first thing I want us to remember. As consultants, when we engage us, we're engaged to help the organization, of course, to do several things. So in this case, this definition says to improve performances. It could be to solve a business problem. It could be to achieve a goal, maybe a cultural change, maybe a leadership succession. It could be several things. It's not always, we're not always called because there's a problem. It could be to advance the company to achieve what they were set out to achieve. And then we do it primarily through analyzing the company, where they are. So we need to analyze. You cannot solve a problem, or you cannot help a client move to where they want to go if you don't analyze how they got to where they are. So one of the core things we do in consulting, before we move ahead, we always like to find out, how did we get to where we are? So it's a core function in consulting. Before we move ahead, the client calls us. It's very critical as a consultant to analyze, how did we get here? 2 things I've said straight away. We help clients move from A to B. And how do we do it? We analyze, how did we get to A, before we even start talking about how do we get you to B. And the third most important thing is, if allowed, we help them get from A to B. Okay, so let me break it down again. Consulting is the practice of helping an organization get from A to B. Yeah, so that's the first thing about consulting. It is helping a client get from A to B, or from where they are now, or where they ought to be, or where they want to be. Those 2 things are different. Where they ought to be, and they're where they want to be. They're 2 different things. where they want to be in terms of their strategic vision. This is what we want to be doing in 5 years. So as a consultant, we can help them to get there. Where they ought to be could be in the market. They're not doing so well in their market. And then when you do an analysis in the market, realize that they're doing so badly against their competition, then they ought to be somewhere. Okay, so two things. Consulting is helping organizations to be where they want to be, or helping organizations to be where they ought to be. Two different things. Yeah. So that's the first thing about consulting. The next thing about consulting is analyzing how they got to where they are now. So a company wants to move from A to B. That's the first thing in consulting, and they call us to help them. The second thing is, before we do anything, we want to understand how they got to A. So you cannot begin to want to take a company to B if you don't understand how they got to A. So A could be where they are right now, and we call A where we are. B is where we want to go. So before you take a company from A to B, you need to analyze how they got to A, point A, where they are right now. Very critical. And then thirdly, the third thing about consulting is now implementing the plan to take them from A to B. Implementing the plan to take them from A to B. Okay. Is that clear? Any question, please? Nana, can you analyze what I just mentioned now, Nana?
Yes. In summary, you said consulting is about three things. One, helping a client solve a problem. Two, coming in to improve their operations or whatever they want you to improve. And then the third one is the third one is helping them to develop from where they are to where they want to go.
Okay, fantastic. Who can use my analogy of A to B in those three, in the three steps?
Yes, helping them to go from A to B.
Hold on, Nana. Let me ask somebody else. Thank you, Nana.
Okay.
Who else wants to try?
Yes, I will try.
Okay, Mohammed, thank you.
Yeah. Basically, I would just summarize it in so a few words. Helping clients to solve their problems and to achieve goals.
Okay, thank you. Vivian, you raise your hand.
And can I give an example of what I just said?
Not now. Not now. Let me just stop. Vivian.
Okay.
Vivian.
Basically, okay, what I mean is, for instance, now in the NGO sector, an organization is existing, but has at point A, they have no funding.
Good.
So a consultant will help the organization to do an analysis of where is the problem, why do they not have funding, and where is their situation. They even do situation analysis. And then based on that, the consultant will help the client to develop a plan on how to move from a status of no funding to a status of funding.
Good.
And that is now point B.
Thank you. So what I want from this short exercise is an analysis of the first thing I said. Number one, we're moving the clients. When they call us, they want us to move them from A to B. That's the first thing. That's the first reason why a client asks us to move them from A to B. Now, who can tell me why do we need to do the second step? Why do we need to find out how they got to A? Why do we need to find out how they got to A before we start anything? Who can help us? Mohammed, you want to try? Who can help us? Client wants you to move them from A to B. And I just said before you move them to A to B, you want to find out how did they get to A. Vivian, let me ask somebody else. So yes, Mohammed.
Okay, so that you know their situation, so that you know who they are, so that you're able to diagnose them properly.
Okay, so that you know who they are. Fantastic. Anyone else? Peter? Anyone else? You can just talk, please. You can just speak.
Yeah, for example, in mechanical, we are diagnosing maybe a problem in the machine or anywhere. So that's where we start our problem analysis before picking up and explaining to the department that this machine has a problem. We have to do certain things before coming to stage A, going to stage B.
So why do you do that?
And we do that because it's a diagnosing process or like on the mathematically we have a starting point, we have an ending point.
Joseph, please let's keep our answers short. Why do you do that?
For the client to be sure what are we doing, for the client to be satisfied that we have got the problem, we have analyzed the problem.
Okay. Anyone else? Why do we need to know how they arrived? Why do we need to know why they are where they are? Mr. Deoti, are you there?
Can I try, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For me, trying to identify, where they are, I probably want to know what's their mission and vision, what has been the structure that the organization has run with. So that gives me an insight to how the organization has been running before now. And that could have, give a lead into where they are right now. And that will better inform me to be able to guide on where they want to be.
Good. Vivian?
I think that for any problem, there are always underlying issues. And so it is okay. It is always good to understand the root cause of the problem. For instance, maybe the issue of this organization that has got no funding is not even getting donors, but it is the issue of management of funds that probably is even making donors exit, or it is how they are managing the funds or how they are relating with their donors. So if you were to help them resource mobilize, then they need to address these underlying issues.
Okay, fantastic.
It will also help you to identify their strengths and their weaknesses.
Okay, fantastic. Now, all the answers are good. But one important thing is this. In consulting, do not straight away go to what the client is asking you to do. I repeat, in any assignment that you get as a consultant, the reason why we want to find out where they are, including all those things that you said, is simply to do a root cause analysis. That's what we call it in consulting. So the first thing you do is your root cause analysis, which is how did we get to where we are? How did we get to where we are? So that we can learn from our mistakes, we don't repeat the same mistakes, and then much more, you want to validate what is the root cause. You cannot build on what is wrong. Most times, and you experience this once you start consulting, clients don't just tell you their problems. They tell you what they want you to do. The worst mistake you can commit as a consultant is not to validate the root cause and simply go ahead and implement the solution the client has recommended. I repeat, you need to validate what the client is saying you should do. And why is that important? Why is that important? Who can help us? Why is it important that you don't simply implement what the client is asking you to do, that you validate the root cause And at the end of your validation, you may find out that, yes, the client's suggestion is okay, is correct. But why is it important to not go ahead and implement what the client is asking you to do? Why is it not important? After all, they are paying for it. And they actually look, we are struggling with funding. Help us to get funding. So why do you need to find out why they're not getting funding? Why don't you just go ahead and help them to get funding? Who can answer that? Who wants to have a go?
Yeah, I'll try.
Yeah.
You need to validate because you want to. What the client is requesting is basically from his point of view, but you coming in as a consultant, you are looking at it from a more professional and a more global viewpoint. You might be able to see some other issues that are the reason why he is in that situation, and you'll be able to guide him to the right solution.
Okay, so in doing that analysis, we may find out if there are other underlying issues. Thank you. Anyone else? Why? I mean, the client is paying. So why don't you just go ahead and do what the client is saying? Anyone else? Anyone else?
I think.
Yeah.
I think. Yes, I think we will need to bring the client to be to the same level of understanding we have achieved in terms of analyzing the problem we have had, and try to enlighten them. And
why do we need to do all that?
Because you are speaking from a point of from a point of knowledge and a point of experience, and you wouldn't just want to go ahead like that without bringing them to understand what is the situation, what the situation looks like before you proceed.
Let me
and they will need to validate. They will need to validate your proposals.
Okay, fine. What is the risk of going ahead without validating your proposal? Vivian.
You might be treating a disease that is not existing. So you need to understand if the disease is existing really and get the right medication for it. And that will be long.
Good. So we've established now the reason why we want to validate what the client has asked us to do is just to bring them up to that same professional standard and knowledge based on your insights. You might have covered something new that was not obvious. And then secondly, is so that you guide the clients, okay? Anyone else? One more. What is the risk of simply implementing the solution the client is paying for? Anyone else? Somebody new? Jennifer, are you there? A client is paying for this assignment. What is the wrong in simply going ahead and implementing what the client is asking for? Someone who has not spoken? Everyone has spoken actually. Anyone who has not spoken? Okay, Peter says you may be leaving the client worse off. Okay, you may be. Now, one of the key things in consulting is this. We are consultants and we should give the client the best possible solution. We must always be diligent in our advice to the client, unbiased. The reason why they've called you is because you are independent, so you can give independent, unbiased, professional advice. Never be afraid to be honest with the client. If you're not being honest with the client, you're not doing the client any justice. Now, 50% of every assignment you get at the classic as a consultant, the client is always likely to say, this is what I want you to do. Now, as a good consultant, you must be able to explain to the client that, fine, this is what you want you to do, but your process is such that you still have to do a due diligence. You still have to do your own root cause analysis. Because if we simply, and this is where I'm going, If you simply go ahead and implement what the client is asking you to do, and you may likely provide a solution to the wrong treatment, and you don't want to risk that. You don't want to risk that. So the reason why we do our due diligence as a consultant is to validate what the client has asked you to do. Because when you carry out your root cause analysis, you may realize that the root cause of the problem is completely different. And the solution the client is asking you to deliver may not solve the root cause, okay? Most clients, who knows an iceberg? Let me look for that. Most clients work like an iceberg. Most clients think and they behave like icebergs. So I'm going to quickly show us an iceberg now. Yeah. So let's go to this one. I'm sure some of us are familiar with it, but I want to use it for the benefit of this training. It's taking forever to open. Okay. Let's go there. Now I've opened up several pictures of iceberg. Okay, so let's just look at, can you see the iceberg? Can you see what is an iceberg here? Yeah? This second one here.
Yes.
Most times, and this is why you need to validate it. Most times, the client is telling you what they can see. What they can't see, they can't tell you. So this is the iceberg effect. The client tells you what they can see. Their briefing, most times, may be as a function of what is visible, what they can see. Now, when we say root cause analysis in consulting, this is what we do first. We carry out a root cause analysis to understand what is underpinning what is visible. This is the very first thing that we do as a consultant. Simply because most times the clients will tell you to do ABC. What you are doing as ABC may not solve the problem. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Any question, please? Any question, anyone? Any question? Does that make sense, please? Please come back to me. Does that make sense? Now, in practice, 9 out of 10 times, when you say to the client that I want to carry out a due diligence, I want to validate what you've asked us to do, clients get upset. I'll tell you for free now. Clients get upset. In fact, I had a client once who said to me, oh, you are trying to extend the assignment. You are looking for work. You are looking for more money. How do you answer that client? Who wants to help us? How do you answer a client that says, look, just do what I've asked you to do? Or a client that says, this is the solution I want, just do it. If you can't do it, then let me find somebody else. Or a client that says, we've thought about these things, and this is what we think is the best solution. So why are you trying to do any more due diligence? Are you saying we don't know what we are doing? We don't know what we are saying? How do you answer that client? Who wants to try? Who wants to try?
I'll try.
Okay, Nana.
I'll try.
Yeah. I'll try. You have to explain. He has given you his point of view of what is the cause of the problem. And the reason why he brought you on board is that you are coming in from a neutral point of view. So he should allow you to also look at assess the situation and give him your point of view. And then you can combine both and get a good solution.
How do you convince me as the client? Very stubborn, obnoxious. I said, no, Nana, this is what I want you to do. How do you convince me? Are you going to just convince me by saying, oh, I'm the professional, let me do it? Yeah? How do you convince me? Yeah, anyone else?
I think
Can
I
I
will give
try?
him the
Jennifer,
disadvantage and advantages.
let me go to Jennifer. Jennifer?
Okay.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. So I think that as a consultant, you have to articulate it very well and let him know the consequences.
Okay. Articulate it very well.
The
consequences.
Yes.
Okay, I like that. Consequences.
Yes.
That's good. Who else was trying to speak?
Yes, I will try to say something.
Please go ahead.
Perhaps I will give him one or two options.
Okay.
There are some disadvantages and advantages in such cases.
Okay.
And you have to be aware of it. There will be a negative aspect and positive aspect.
Okay.
So if he accepts it, that's how I look at it.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
Okay. To convince the client that you want to, so that the problem doesn't show its ugly head again. So as such, you need to do a background check so that you don't solve the problem and come back to solving the problem again.
Good. Fantastic. All the points are good. In practice, before you engage a client, have your processes mapped out. Let your client know these are your processes. Okay? At the point of engagement, always be clear, and you have it written on your website or you have it as part of your discussion. Let the client know from the onset. So the client is not becoming aware of your processes after. They are aware of your processes before. Okay? These are the steps, these are our processes as a consultant. And these are the reasons why we do it. Okay, so all the reasons you have alluded, if you build on the wrong foundation, you cannot build on the wrong foundation, save cost, the risk, the advantages and all that, you would have upfront provided that information how you work. We call it impact analysis. Impact analysis. You must always have an impact analysis as part of your due process in any consulting assignment. Impact analysis. Okay? Impact analysis. Now, if you haven't said all that and you do that and the client still refuses, what do you do? Or what can you do? What can you do? The client still refuses, what can you do? Who can help us? Who can help us? You have tried to explain to the client, you have tried to reason the client, they've seen your impact analysis, and the client says, well, this is how I want you to